Hello, my name is Tina Partial, and I am a McKinney-Vento advocate and case manager for the Maslow Project. In this video, I am going to be covering training on how to identify students, uphold their legal rights, and give a lens into things to consider for distance learning, on how teachers and administration can help support students who qualify for McKinney-Vento services. So who is eligible under the definition of McKinney-Vento? The definition of who is eligible are children and youth who lack a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence. This means they are living in emergency or transitional living shelters. They are places that are not designed or have regular accommodations, such as in a traditional house. They could be living in cars, parks, abandoned buildings, substandard housing, buses, train stations, and anything similar to that. Under COVID, we have noticed an increase in families and students who are qualifying for services. So it's really important, I think, as administrators and teachers to just kind of make sure that you're aware and looking out for any changes with students who potentially could be in a different living situation than they were in last year. One thing I wanted to point out is being homeless doesn't necessarily just mean that you're living in a shelter. 75% of formerly homeless students surveyed say that homelessness was something that they experienced more than once during their school year. 47% say that they were homeless with both parents or guardians and not alone. 94% stayed with other people, which means that they are doubled up rather than in one consistent place that they could call home. And 50% of students slept in cars, parks, abandoned buildings, bus stations, and other places not habitable for residency. Unaccompanied homeless youth is a child or youth who meets the definition of McKinney-Vento, which we just discussed, who is not in the physical custody of a parent or a legal guardian. Unaccompanied homeless youth are youth who run away due to abuse or neglect or many other circumstances. Forty to 60% of unaccompanied youth were abused physically at home. 17 to 35% of unaccompanied youth were abused sexually at home. Unaccompanied homeless youth are unaccompanied and homeless for a various amount of reasons. Parents sometimes force the youth out of the home due to conflicts such as pregnancy, sexual orientation, gender identity. The circumstances of homelessness that force families apart are they become separated due to poverty, lack of space and living situations, shelters, and policies. 47% of youth experience homelessness both with families and when living on their own. 67% of students say they were uncomfortable telling people at school about their homelessness or for asking for help. I think that, again, is really some place where administration and teachers can just be aware of different things that they're noticing in students. Some students may not want to turn on their Zoom cameras for fear of backlash from peers. They could be in their cars having to connect online. They could be in hotels having to connect online. They could be outdoors. They could be at any of the local fast food places that offer free Wi-Fi so they could get online. So I think it's just important for administration and staff to be hyper aware of any changes that they're noticing in students' behavior when they are on Zoom meetings. Another important thing to discuss is a student's school of origin. So school of origin is school attended when permanently housed, or the school in which the student was last enrolled, including preschool. This includes the designated receiving school at the next grade level for all feeder schools when the student completes the final grade level served in the school of origin. McKinney-Vento students have the right to stay in their school of origin or go to their school of residency, which is what their address would be. It's important to keep the student in the school of origin for the duration of homelessness or till the end of the academic year in which the student becomes permanently housed, or enroll the student in a public school that housed students' living attendance area, which is also makes the student eligible to be able to go to that school. When determining best interest in school placement, it's important to contact your McKinney-Vento liaison, which would be me, Fallon, or Mary. And there are a lot of factors to include when including best interest. So we presume that we want to keep the students in the school of origin for that student's best interest, unless contrary to the request of the parent, guardian, or unaccompanied youth. Consider the student's center factors, including the impact of mobility on achievement, education, health, and safety, and give priority to the request of the parent or guardian, or give the priority to the request of the unaccompanied youth. Provisions under the law for McKinney-Vento students are they are granted immediate enrollment and full participation in all school activities, their school selection rights, and they also have the right to dispute the resolution. If for some reason that becomes an issue, that's when we determine best interest for the student. Transportation is another immediate provision under the law. Meals, they're entitled to free school meals and free public education with no fees attached. So fees should not be a barrier to anything that the student wants to do in the school. All conditions that I have already talked about do apply to unaccompanied homeless youth. Also, under the provisions of the law, immediate enrollment is a factor for McKinney-Vento students. So enrollment includes attending classes and participating fully in all school activities. The liaison must assist in obtaining immunizations and other health record screening and immunization needs if the student must, but the student must be enrolled in the interim. Enrolling school must obtain school records from the previous school. The student must be enrolled while records are being obtained. Immediate enrollment applies even with or without the parent or guardian. Financial aid for college. Liaisons must ensure unaccompanied youth are informed if they qualify for independent status with FAFSA, and must assist the youth in obtaining the verification status. So we will provide any seniors who fall under those provisions with a letter for FAFSA, which helps them move on to college or a trade school. Ways that teachers can help is what I've talked about with identifying students. It's important with virtual class meetings that we do give the student choice. We let the student decide on when to turn on or turn off their camera and allow them to use a virtual or blurred background and fun filters, kind of like I have behind me here at the Maslow Project. Real-time check-ins are important. Ask questions often to assess students' understanding, allow students to respond via audio or virtual meeting tools, maybe giving thumbs up on the chat box, talking in the chat box, just to let you know that they're still there and they're still participating. Using digital assessment tools to collect different types of data to evaluate ongoing learning for the student. And why this matters is for privacy, safety, equity, and for personal reasons. Like I've discussed, students could feel uncomfortable displaying their living space. Students could be cyberbullied if a classmate takes a screenshot of their video and shares it with friends. It could make the student feel extremely uncomfortable. Students might have unreliable internet access, low bandwidth, and devices without video capabilities. Even though most students were issued Chromebooks, that could still be a barrier, and students can feel shy or anxious on camera. So I think it's important for as students as teachers, when you are checking in with your students, to just kind of, as you are already, just be a little bit hyper vigilant to different things going on with, with students who maybe aren't wanting to be on camera and doing check-ins. Some other services Maslow is providing are, we are still giving school supplies and backpacks. We're making sure kids have Chromebooks and hotspots. We are also providing food boxes to students. We are assisting with OHP, with SNAP, and all the services that we were providing before. We are still here. We also have a new SSA that is working with. Her name's Stephanie Polandy. She is helping with all the educational portion of school, and she's here to assist in educational goals and plans, and so she could be reaching out to teachers as well. So in conclusion, with this training, I just wanted to let you know that you can reach out to me. I have my tina@maslowproject.com email, my tina.partial@medford.k12.or.us email. My telephone number is 541-261-0956. I also am on social media platforms under Tina Partial at Maslow Project if you would like to meet me there. If you feel like you have a student that would qualify for Maslow or McKinney-Vento services, please reach out to me at the information that I gave you, and have a wonderful school year.